I grew up in a family with a grandfather and grandmother who immigrated to Canada after World War II. My baba survived the Holodomor. She lost 3 of her brothers to the Soviets. And my dido was a patriot, like many of you, like many of your parents and grandparents. When Ukraine declared its independence, I was with my grandfather, Ivan. And that might have been the proudest day of his life. And I remember him saying to me that day when Ukraine declared its independence that now that Ukraine is independent, we must continue to defend Ukraine's independence. And I was 14 years old at the time, and I said to him, Dido, про що ти говориш? What are you talking about? Ukraine wants independence. The international community has recognized it. It's over. And I said, you are wrong. I said, you are wrong. And I was wrong. In 2014, the world was wrong. And now look what is happening. We cannot allow Vladimir Putin to take Ukraine. I'm here with my colleagues, James Maloney and Arif Virani. All of us and many of my colleagues are in constant touch with the Prime Minister, with Chrystia Freeland, with the Foreign Minister, with the Minister of Defense and others. And our constant message to them is that Canada must do everything possible. Canada has sent lethal weapons to Ukraine. Canada has sent $620 million in loans to Ukraine. Canada has trained 30,000 Ukrainian soldiers. Canada is helping with cybersecurity. Canada is helping with Ukraine's reforms. But the reality is, that's not enough, as we can see. Over the past several days, Canada has imposed a series of sanctions. A series of sanctions on Russia. I won't list them all. Many of you know what they are. But we've sanctioned all major Russian banks, oligarchs who supported the Russian regime, key Russian ministers, including the defense minister, the finance minister, and the justice minister, and we've ceased all export permits for Russia. Today, just before I got here, the Prime Minister announced more, imposing sanctions on President Vladimir Putin. On his chief of staff, and on Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia. Canada confirmed. Let's be frank. We need to cut Russia off the SWIFT system. Today, and today the Prime Minister announced that Canada, publicly announced, Canada's support to remove Russia from the SWIFT system. So now we need to remove Russia from the SWIFT system. And we also will be levying, Canada announced, levying additional sanctions against Belarus. Because let's be frank, the Belarus has worked hand in hand with Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine, to violate Ukraine's sovereignty, international territorial integrity, and to kill the many Ukrainians who are dying as we speak today. Now, and it's been I've been reminded, and it's very true, the sanctions are against Lukashenko's regime and not the Belarusian people. And the sanctions that I just talked about with Russia are against Vladimir Putin and his regime, not against the Russian people. Our fight is not with the Russian people. We saw over the last couple of days, Russian people, look how many of us are standing here today. How many Russian people courageously stepped out into the streets to protest in support of Ukraine and against this war? How many? And think about what they've wagered and what they've risked. And we should applaud them. So yes, our fight is not with the Russian people or the Belarusian people. Our fight is for a sovereign and free Ukraine. And it's important to so many people here who have ancestry like mine, like yours, who come back to Ukraine, who trace their ancestry to Ukraine. But I need to say to the media who is here, to the Canadian media who is here, this is not just about Ukraine. Yes, of course it's about Ukraine. Of course 44 million people deserve their sovereignty and deserve to be protected. That goes without saying. But it's about more than that. Ukraine is fighting to defend Europe. Ukraine is fighting to defend democracy. And if we don't stop Putin now, we will face much bigger threats in Europe, in Canada's Arctic, and for years to come, our global security will be threatened. So the time to stop Vladimir Putin is now. That's what James Maloney, that's what Arif Virani and I have been pushing for Canada to do, and we will continue to push until it's done. I will finish with one last thing. Члени української громади, вчора Chrystia Freeland, коли говорила при мікрофону, сказала вам, я хочу повторити, Chrystia Freeland, when she was standing at the microphone yesterday with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Defense Minister, sent a message to us, to the Ukrainian Canadian community. We must keep fighting. We must keep working. We all know Ukraine's history. We all know the generations of people who fought and suffered and died to defend Ukraine, and we will do what it takes. We have to do what it takes. And Chrystia Freeland said, "Ще не вмерла Україна." Пані і панове, ще не вмерла Україна. Слава Україні!
Stop Putin now! 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 Stop Putin now!
I won't repeat what my colleague Yvonne said because I can't put it any better. The message is we have not just the government, we have all of Parliament, we have all of Canada standing with Ukraine. And I do want to acknowledge my colleague Melissa Lantsman from the Conservative Party who came from Thornhill to be here with us today. So thank you for joining. We're not united by party, we're not united on every issue, but we are united on this. Arif and Yvonne and I were with you 14 days ago in front of the Russian consulate. We were here on Tuesday with you, and we will be here with you every single day until things change. You have our commitment on that. A few years ago, I had a young man working in my office as an intern from Ukraine. His name was Yevgeny. I sent him a note last night to see if he was okay. He responded to me this morning and he said, "James, thank you." He said, "I'm okay, but I'm very worried about my family. Please, please do everything you can to help Ukraine." I gave that young man my promise, and you have that promise too. Slava Ukraine.
Dobry day. Thank you, James. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you to everyone who's gathered here today. Know that I want to pick up on something that Yvonne had mentioned. This cause is not just your cause. It's not just Ukrainian Canadians' cause. It's not Eastern European Canadians' cause. James is an Irish Canadian. I'm a Ugandan Canadian, for Pete's sakes. I've learned about this cause from all of you. I've learned about it from Lesia. I've learned about it from Marcus Polga. I've learned about it from Boris Trzaskowski, who talked to me about SWIFT years ago, about the importance of cutting off at the throat the economic tools that empower a guy like Putin. When I see that sanctioned Putin sign, I'm proud to stand here and say, today we did just that. We sanctioned Putin. That is important. But know that the more that you talk to guys like me, guys like James, guys like Yvonne, women like Melissa, the more we retain and the more we advocate. There are next steps to come. We have to deal with the disinformation that Marcus has been talking to me about for more than 7 or 8 years. And how do we start with that? We deal with Russia today. So do one thing, please, all of you. Make sure that the information you receive, the factual information you receive, you send it back to everyone back in Ukraine, because they need to know the facts about what is happening on the ground. I will always stand with Ukraine, advocate for Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!